When I think about Barber-Scotia in terms of its relevance to the society in which we now find ourselves, I do not find it as foreign a territory as some might think. Some might say 1867, that was a long time ago. This is 2006. But you have to go back and ask, what were the needs, what were the reasons for the existence and the relevance of a college at its beginning? Are any of those needs still out there?
Immediately after the institution of slavery had ended in the United States, the Freedmen's Bureau and other missionary societies in the North joined forces with ex-slaves as they struggled for an education. Ex-slaves' determination to become literate was an expression of freedom. It was an effort of an oppressed people to put as great a distance between themselves and bondage as possible, stated James Anderson, author of The Education of Blacks in the South. Schools and colleges of various forms sprang up overnight throughout the South, and ex-slave children and even some adults abandoned the cotton, tobacco, and rice fields as they made their way eagerly to these halls of learning. Many of these schools were mere shacks, and others established by Northern philanthropists fared better. Regardless, the children showed up by the thousands. Just 2 years after the end of the Civil War, and only 4 years removed from the Emancipation Proclamation, Scotia Seminary was born on a Cabarrus Avenue site close to downtown Concord, North Carolina. The Reverend Luke Dorland, a missionary from Toledo, Ohio, and the school's first president, was sent to Cabarrus County by the Presbyterian Church, USA, to establish a college to educate young black women in the South. The minister and his wife hoped to model the school after Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts, which had been created 30 years earlier as an independent college for white women. By 1871, Scotia Seminary had admitted nearly 75 students, with 50 of them taking residence on campus. Scotia Seminary was an oasis in the segregated South. Initially, the tiny college struggled for funds and worked feverishly to win support. These efforts paid off. In 1877, Graves Hall opened. Its importance to the emerging campus was apparent when just 4 years later, Graves underwent a major expansion. Then, in 1891, Scotia opened its Faith Hall dormitory. On the cornerstone of Faith Hall were the words that symbolized the college's mission: for head, hand, and heart. The first president faced many challenges as he worked to build an all-black school in the South so soon after the end of the Civil War. While organized around traditional subject matter, the early program was focused on preparing teachers who in turn would become the teachers of their people. Though Barber-Scotia prides itself in having created a multitude of teachers and professionals in every walk of life, one of its most distinguished alumnus, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, went on to become not only a national teacher model, but founder and president of Bethune-Cookman College in Florida, and advisor to 4 United States presidents. She entered Scotia Seminary in 1887, then as 13-year-old Mary McLeod, one of 17 children, graduating from the institution's junior college in 1894. The next 4 presidents of Scotia Seminary from 1888 until 1932 continued to have faith in their students, and each made valuable contributions. During much of this time, World War I raged and the Great Depression loomed. As the school struggled like others for economic stability, Scotia persevered in fulfilling its promise for its students and the larger community. In 1930, the decision was made to reorganize Scotia as a junior college and to merge with Barber Memorial Seminary to form Barber-Scotia College. In 1931, Barber-Scotia College was approved as a standard junior college by the North Carolina Board of Education, which was necessary to achieve accreditation from the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. In 1932, Dr. L.S. Cozart, the school's first African-American leader, began his 32-year tenure as Barber-Scotia College's sixth president. Cozart's first acts in his post were to double faculty salaries and to appoint an all-black faculty. Student organizations flourished. The first student council was assembled. While student life blossomed, the college administration faced the challenges of receiving accreditation. From the date of its inception in 1867, Barber-Scotia College has been no stranger to hard work or hard times. Its proud history has served it well over the many years, a time filled with change and uncertainty. Jackie Washington graduated from Barber-Scotia in 1964 and has volunteered over the years in the areas of school development and alumni affairs.
I think students should choose Barber-Scotia College because of the environment. Every child cannot go to the major institutions and succeed. A lot of them need that mentoring, that one-on-one access to their professors, their guidance counselors. They're not just a number at Barber-Scotia College.
Until 1955, the institution accepted only black women as students. The first male graduates received their degree June 1, 1959. Carl Flamer, a graduate of 1974, recently retired as teacher and principal of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system.
You know, as I look around, certainly educationally in this country, and we talk about so many issues regarding disparities in student achievement, no matter where you go, with minority groups and various segments of our society, and issues dealing with equity, there'll always be a need for schools like Barber-Scotia.
The college's generosity and concern for the masses have contributed tremendously to the problems which have plagued the school in recent years. Today, Barber-Scotia stands at the crossroads. Accreditation, once threatened, has gone. Gone too are the students, faculty, and staff, as the Board of Trustees works feverishly to reclaim the glory. Yet in the midst of such darkness, a beacon of light shines through. 34 years after having accepted the role as president of the college for the first time, Dr. Mabel McLean has recently and graciously agreed to lead again.
Talk about the rich history of Barber-Scotia. You know that it began 139 years ago in 1867 that a minister from the Presbyterian Church came southward. He was commissioned to go and find a place for the education of the daughters of recently freed slaves. And he came to this section of North Carolina, and after having stayed a while and roamed around in various sections, he went back in 1866 to the Pennsylvania office, and he said, "I have found the place. I have found the place." And so it was that with his convincing, that they sent him back in 1867, January, to establish a place where the daughters of recently freed slaves could have formal education and attention to their general needs. And so it was since January 27, 1867, Barber-Scotia has been in existence in this same town, on this same street. It used to be called Railroad Street. It's now Cabarrus Avenue, but on the same property. And the church on the corner is also a part of the heritage because the same person, Reverend Luke Doylan, established the church on the corner. And for the first 5 presidents of this institution, from 1867 to 1932, they were ordained Presbyterian ministers. And it wasn't until 1932 that the first man of color became president, who was not an ordained minister and therefore was no longer the head of the church on the corner. But for that period of time, that's the way we began. And so it was that the school was one for those who were invited to come according to their needs. And therefore, you couldn't say it was a college at that time. You couldn't say it was a high school. It was actually referred to as a seminary. And whatever the needs might have been, that's what the school addressed. And so when Mary McLeod Bethune, Mary McLeod as she was then, came from South Carolina to this place, she was 13 years old. And by the time she left, she was 20. She finished the entire program that the school had to offer because she had never been in a formal school setting. But this place was always precious to her because it gave her the longest period of formal education that she had ever had and that she had after that time, where that's concerned. But always the school has been concerned about the total development of a person. And so on the cornerstone of the second building, which was built in 1891, Faith Hall, you find the words for head, hand, and heart, because it was the belief then, as it is now, that a person who intends to be a tribute, a relative individual for the good of society must have not only the academic training, but he must have a concern for people, and he must have a development of the total person, have something to share other than what comes out of the brain, so to speak.
Born in a shameful period of this nation's history, Barber-Scotia has had its share of setbacks, yet has continued to strive as an institution. Because of determined faith and commitment of many, the college will weather this storm. Barber-Scotia needs you in order that it may continue to excel in its purpose and philosophy of producing graduates who are yesterday's dreams, today's reality, and tomorrow's hope. Long live Barber-Scotia.